Good evening, Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It's a great pleasure to address you at the end of Ramadan, as you may gather. It's just finished globally, and I mean that because there has been some discrepancies, different ending dates. So the reason I mentioned that was the spiritual, dimension to the world. I want to firstly thank the Universal Peace Federation and Robin, indeed, for organising another event. I actually work in international business events, so they almost do one a week, or should I say one a day. So he's a hell of a busy guy. And also, I also thank you for the extension of the invitation to speak today. And right at the start of this discussion, I wish to dedicate my contribution to the silent millions, regardless of faith or no faith, who were sacrificed by the warmongers. That is going to be my approach to today. It's not going to be scientific or technical or legal, dimensions to nuclear weapons. Indeed, I'm going to look at the global political economy of war. As someone said, that topic is a bit like addressing the 800-pound gorilla in the room, or in this debate, which has not been addressed, because it's so powerful. We're in awe of it. Well, I'm going to blow that apart. Now, today, or this week, we've got various party conferences. Look where the debate is at. We are in a very grave situation globally with a global financial crash. We've had a one-day seminar in this very room in December last year. Indeed, in April in London, Global Vision 2000. We also had another event in April 2008 on the global financial meltdown, socio-economic injustice and war, cause and remedy. Now, the problem with, no disrespect to academics, I've also got an academic background, although I've moved away from it. I've also done a degree in Arabic, Middle East, Islamic studies way back in the early 80s. The problem is that often knowledge is broken up into silo mentalities. The connections are not made. Likewise, in society and civilization, world civilization, the connections aren't made. For instance, we heard Lawrence Bloom here the other day, right, with the environment. Of course that's a big issue, and climate change. And then disarmament and war, that's a big issue. But at the centre, I believe, is the financial system and its hijacking. I like to sometimes simplify things, and it's hijacking by a private cartel, and I want to address that issue. Because unless we address this gorilla in the room, we're going to get nowhere. With the latest technology or not. Now, as General Smedley Butler stated in Another Generation, he stated that there are only two things we should fight for. One is the defence of our homes and a Bill of Rights, and war for any other reason is a racket. Now, as I mentioned, in April 2008, Global Vision held a conference, not here, in another venue, not far from here, as I mentioned, which connected a critique, an understanding of the global financial meltdown, socio-economic injustice and war cause and remedy. And at that event, I invited Stop the War, leaders to address it, which they did, and the International Peace Bureau from Geneva, and the 9/11 Truth Movement. Quite an interesting combination. That's only 3 speakers on the war issue, leaving aside the financial and economic dimension. So today, which I didn't do then in the opening, I'm going to raise some points which should have been raised there in April. And they're very relevant to where we're at and where we are in London. Now, given the limitation of time, I will focus deliberately on what I call, and others, Anglo-American imperialism, and I make no apologies for it. And the connection between Anglo-American imperialism or neo-imperialism and Anglo-American financial usurious capitalism, given its preeminent role stemming to the British Empire, or if you want to go to 1688 for that matter, and the establishment following the so-called Glorious Revolution by the bankers and the establishment of the Bank of England in 1694, which is the antecedent to the British Empire. Now, so following the preeminent role of the British Empire in the 19th century, indeed that was called the century of the British Empire, to now, which is Pax Americana, which is the American century, today, till today. So it's very relevant, that particular angle to the global economy and the war economy, because there are big bucks at stake here, very big. Indeed, the future of these nations. And as I was looking at our own research as a think tank, what I dug up is shocking about this political economy of war, and also what is about to happen. And it's not what I'm going to say at the end, maybe controversial, but it's frightening also. Now, Jonathan Swift identified the following factors in the evolution of the imperial system, which is now global, I would argue. And there's a whole global financial architecture, IMF, World Bank, WTO, and the imperial dollar. And I use that term carefully. Underpinning economics and finance is might. The imperial dollar, and that's leaving aside the war machine. I think they're interconnected, as I just said there, just by that word, the imperial dollar. Now, so he identified, Jonathan Swift, in the evolution of the imperial system, the following factors. The doctrine of permanent war, 1. 2. War itself. And he also referred to the bankers or money power, which benefits by indebting the state to a growing public debt, and also the militarists and the military-industrial political complex. Now, this is the setting, the stage we are dealing with, namely a world where might is right and white is right, and wherein the spirit of power prevails rather than the power of the spirit. Underpinning the global vision paradigm shift is also the spiritual dimension. What we have got, and sometimes I explain my understanding of how I see the world, is that we're living in an upside down world. And for those who are genuinely spiritual, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Leaving aside those who don't have faith also. We are living in an upside down world, and I'll be dishing out the facts. Now, as I mentioned, the global financial architecture, in other words, what I'm saying is that we have a system out there, deliberately created, with a vision and a mission. You know, it didn't just evolve. It's there. It's been established. And we need to understand it and expose it. By we, I mean the people. All people. Now, in the modern era, the foundation of the military-industrial political complex was established in the period between 39 and 45. And in the post-war Cold War period, we had a thing called the Trilateral Commission in 68, which established a whole apparatus in the US in particular concerning the National Security Council.